Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace reporting live here at Joe's Pub here in New York City. Vocalist Rondi Charleston's debut Motema Records release, Who Knows Where the Time Goes, is a reflection of where she is musically as well as a lyricist. The classically Juilliard-trained vocalist became a journalist, but she came back to her roots in music. Tonight we're going to sit down and talk about her career as a journalist as well as a striving and budding writer, as well as working with the likes of Dave Stryker as well as Lynne Arriale. This is your debut for Motema Records, and this is your second project. And tell me what's different about your first project and going into this project.
Good question. I formerly had done an album called In My Life, which was really a compilation of standards, some Brazilian, and some a couple of originals. And what's different on this album is that I did 4 originals on this album, and that seems to be what's sparking people's imaginations is my original lyrics.
You know, there are not too many people writing original lyrics to songs anymore, and how hard is it now to accomplish writing a song right now, especially singing it in a jazz vein?
You know, I just think of it as good storytelling is good storytelling. And it really doesn't matter what the style is. I try to really stick close to the story, and I work with musicians like Lynne Arriale, Bruce Barth, Dave Stryker, and they're such fabulous musicians that whatever lyrics I bring to them, they can treat them in such a way that it's appropriate to the words, it's appropriate to the story, and then it's also based in a jazz idiom as well.
I've profiled both Lynne and Bruce, and one of the most important qualities about both of those pianists are that they are great accompanimists also. What's the chemistry like working between both Bruce and Lynne? Because they both have different kind of personalities.
They do, very different personalities. They're both superb musicians, and they're both great listeners. The most important thing, they're just really, really present with you every moment on the stage. If you go left, they go left with you. If you go right, they go right with you. And you know, Bruce has an architectural kind of an approach to music. He thinks very much in terms of broad strokes and form and structure. And we wrote a song called Telescope together that has really resonated with audiences around the country. And it's got a very strong structure to it. And people latch on to that. They know they're in good hands. They know the bus is being driven in the right direction, you know. And then Lynne has totally different qualities that are so beautiful. The songs that we're writing together are, I don't want to say more sensitive in terms of musicianship, because they're just as stealthy and strong structurally. But these have more of an ephemeral, magical quality to them that's, you can't manufacture that. It's either there or it's not. And Lynne has magic out the wazoo when she plays, and playing with her on stage is just an amazing experience. She's a magical performer.
It amazes me how we still dance in the sun, still move in unison, though we're no longer young. At times we lose our rhythm, and at times forget the steps. There's so much life left in this sweet duet. Steady sway, subtle turns, a spin, a fall, a climb. We breathe together, our souls are intertwined. We stretch the dance of time.
Dave is a dynamic guitarist, and he has a name behind himself also. But I noticed that tonight you guys have this very, very special chemistry.
Really, you think? I enjoy working with Dave so much. He's been just a great supporter. And I started playing guitar when I was in high school. And I started singing in some of the clubs in Chicago, sneaking in when I was underage and playing and singing. So my instrument that I'm most comfortable with is actually guitar. So for me, although I did start piano when I was 6 years old as well, and I play piano as well, but for me to have a guitarist as my musical director is a very different experience than a piano, because it's more organic for me and for my background.
You go into some very, very interesting songs on here. One I really love is Overjoyed, Stevie Wonder, and another one is one of my all-time favorite composers next to Duke Ellington is Antonio Carlos Jobim. You do Wave. How did you go about choosing the selections off this disc?
Well, Wave was interesting because it's done a lot. And in general, I try to pick tunes that are not done a lot. So that was those were the two exceptions on this album. In fact, I thought long and hard about putting them on because I thought, oh, everybody does these. How can I find a way to make them different? So hopefully we did that. But then in general, I look for tunes like the Milton Nascimento tune, Tudo que você podia ser, which translates in English to everything that you were meant to be. And nobody does that tune. I just sort of pulled it out. I loved it. And I said, let's see if we can work with this. And we did. And I did a translation, an English translation, to make it more accessible. And it's a great tune. You know, again, a lost gem. I like to find the lost gems.
Over hearts, I have painfully turned every stone, just to find I have found what I've searched to discover. Come much too far, be now to find love that I saw can never be mine. And though you believe that they do,
grew up in Chicago, Hyde Park. Tell me how this journey began.
Well, as you may know, Hyde Park is a really unusual kind of a neighborhood. It's very, very integrated, very culturally diverse, socially diverse, economically diverse. It's a real hotbed, melting pot of interesting people, interesting minds. A lot of creative musicians and writers live there. And when I was growing up, Miles Davis was playing around in the South Side still a little bit. My dad took me to hear him sing apparently when I was 6 months old. I don't obviously remember that. My dad took me to hear Duke Ellington in Hyde Park when I was 6 years old. And he exposed me, my dad loves jazz, and he exposed me to the music early on, and I'm sure that that's you know, where I've gotten my cellular love for this music.
What I don't understand is you went to Juilliard and you studied classical music, but you ended up becoming a Peabody Award-winning journalist.
You've done your homework. Wow.
How did this happen?
You know, I wish I could tell you that I planned it, but I didn't plan it at all. It was really a matter of trying one thing on and it doesn't quite feel right, you know, like putting on an outfit and it doesn't quite fit right, and you don't know it until you've been walking around in it for a few days, or in my case, a few years. Opera was sort of, for me, constricting. I didn't feel like my creativity was going to be realized in the world of opera, and I think I was right about that. I needed to move into, at the time, I wanted to be a cultural reporter for Charles Kuralt on CBS Sunday Morning. That was my dream, that, wow, I'd love to just sit and do what you're doing and talk to musicians and talk to writers and directors. And so I went to journalism school at NYU, Graduate School of Journalism. And while I was there, I won an award for an investigative piece. And the next thing I knew, I was hired by ABC News, and I was working for Diane Sawyer on investigative journalism.
A voice to lead the call, a voice that speaks for all, for young and old throughout the universe. A song for the ages, the changing of the times, a song of faith and hope for what's begun. The chapter's finally done, and Abraham has won. It's a time for dreams of better things to come. A song for the ages, the changing of the times, a song of faith and hope for what's to come.
Rondi has a distinct voice as a songwriter. The lyrics she writes are very heartfelt, and she really tells a beautiful story, beautiful narrative. And it's such a pleasure to write melodies with her and, you know, for her. And we actually started by writing a phrase at a time. I would send her a melody, and she would come up with a lyric, just for a short phrase, and then we would do the next phrase. I think, again, her ability to really tell a story, and her connection with the audience, which is really very, very strong and special. She really reaches out through her music and touches people in a very profound way, I think.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian, Pace Reporting live here at Joe's Pub here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank Rondi Charleston for her time, as well as the staff and management here at Joe's Pub. As always, please visit my website, www.thepacereport.com, for my weekly column as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.